We are now rolling. It looks like I didn't even realize we were. This is my man Mike. We are joining each other again. About to do another review, this time of Captain Marvel and some other exciting stuff. Today is March the 16th, and it's cold outside. We're nearing the end of winter, about to go into spring, which is a good thing. But that's not stopping us from doing our reviews. It's not stopping us from being fans. It's about like a week out or so, or a little more over a week of the release from Captain Marvel, which I've seen twice. Mike has seen, how many times have you seen it, man?
Once.
One time?
Yeah.
So we're going to get into breaking down that film. And this is a spoiler review. So if you haven't seen the movie, you might want to turn this off now. I wanted to wait until like more than a week to actually review the film because give everybody enough time to see it so you kind of know some of the things that we're discussing and that we're talking about. I actually have a little itinerary I'm going to be reading off of it. So if you see me looking down and then looking up, that's what I'm looking at. So it kind of follow a little pattern here. But anyway, again, the movie was released March the 8th. And this is, we found out before we start filming, Women's History Month. And it was, so Captain Marvel is like the headliner female superhero for the Marvel Universe. They've had other female superheroes in the MCU. One, of course, being what's her name, the Black Widow. They have the Scarlet Witch, and then they also have the Wasp. But when the Wasp was premiered, the movie premiered, it was with Ant-Man. This is the first actual Marvel film with a female superhero that actually has her name on the marquee alone. So that is monumental for them. And no, they're not trying to keep up with DC with the Wonder Woman thing. This has actually been planned a long time. Kevin Feige introduced the Phase 3 films about 5 years ago, and Captain Marvel was part of that. Wonder Woman had actually been in development for like at least 10 years. Joss Whedon, who directed the first two Avengers films, actually was working on a Wonder Woman TV series, which was canned. And the actress, I forget her name, who played as the Mockingbird in Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. was actually supposed to play that particular character, but it was canned. I don't think they wanted to really spend the money that he was asking for per episode. So,
And what year was this?
Wonder Woman was actually in development with Joss Whedon at least about 10 or more years ago.
Wow, I did not know that.
Yep. So he actually filmed some episodes. I've never actually seen the episodes themselves. But there's still prints
No
actually.
kidding.
Yes. So Joss Whedon was actually working on a Wonder Woman series.
Do you think those episodes might have gotten out, leaked out by any chance?
I want to check to see one day if they have.
I would love to see that.
Yeah.
Oh my goodness.
The actress that they had playing her again, you could see her in Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. as Mockingbird. And please forgive me, I forget her name. I try to memorize, keep a lot of things in or situations and names and people memorize up here more so than just using a computer and Googling all the time. I think human memory is the best. Anyway, so this is Marvel's 22nd film into their Phase 4 films. And the MCU actually celebrated its 10th anniversary last year. And this is actually Marvel Comics' 80th anniversary. So they got a lot going on in the Marvel Universe, all these numbers. But right now, we're going to talk about first talk about some facts as it pertain to the film. Captain Marvel, of course, stars Brie Larson as Carol Danvers, who is the headlining character, Captain Marvel. Funny thing about it is that I learned too after seeing this movie a second time, they never call her Captain Marvel in a movie.
That's right.
There's a reason for that, and we're going to discuss that because we're also going to be talking about the Avengers trailer that just dropped. It's the reason why they're not calling her Captain Marvel. Man, remind me of that, man, as we get to talking about the trailer itself. Well, there's a reason for that. They actually call her, with Jude Law's character, Jude Law, they refer to as Veers. And his character is known as Jan Rog. He's a Kree in the movie. They call her Veers. And the reason that is that we discover she was part of some accident or something. Something happened to her. She was involved in an accident. She had her army tag on, and the tag cracked or broke. And the tag actually had the last 3 or 4 letters of her name, Danvers, they had the last four letters of her name, Vers, and he started calling her Veers. So, that's what she was known as amongst the Cree soldier of the Cree army. So that was interesting. Also, the movie star Samuel L. Jackson. We all know Samuel L. Jackson. He's been in God Knows Everything. You know, from playing a Jedi Master, Mace Windu, to Pulp Fiction, to Nick Fury, of course, and into this movie. So that's a guy who really needs a little introduction. But then I found also what's interesting was Ben Mendelsohn was in the movie. Now that I thought was interesting. And I first learned of Ben Mendelsohn when I seen him in Star Wars Rogue One, which a lot of fans have said to this day, including myself, is one of the best Star Wars movies ever made. And I really kind of, careful in saying that if you're a traditional Star Wars fan, which I am. I was there when the very first Star Wars movie came out, but it really is an excellent movie. It's part of the Star Wars story franchise. It was very, very well done. Ben Mendelsohn played a character called Director Krennic, who was part of the Empire, and very, very iconic role to this day. A very revered role amongst fans. He played a Skrull in this particular film, and did very well. Almost stole the show a little bit. Also starred Lashana Lynch as Marie Rambeau. And we're going to get more into that character too in a little while, because there's a lot of surprising things about that character that we both were discussing and are going to discuss later on. Lashana Lynch. Clark Gregg also stars in the film. He plays as Phil Coulson before he becomes Agent Coulson, as we know him in S.H.I.E.L.D. and Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. So it's good to see him and how they de-aged him. Also, how they de-aged Samuel Jackson. So that de-aging process is fascinating. It's interesting to see. Also kind of dangerous, too. They have the kind of technology to make someone look like they aren't or whatever. That's an interesting bit of technology. But anyway, very good job that they did with that. Akira Akbar stars as Monica Rambeau, the daughter of Marie Rambeau, who we just mentioned, played by Lashana Lynch. We're going to get more into that in a minute. Then Lee Pace also stars as Ronan the Accuser. If you don't know, you're not familiar with Lee Pace, he was also one of the elves in Lord of the Rings trilogy. In this particular movie, he's playing as Ronan again. If you don't know who Ronan is, Ronan actually first appeared in the very first Guardians of the Galaxy film under the direction of James Gunn, who we will also talk about in a minute. All these coincidences around this movie, man, are fascinating.
And the timing is perfect.
The timing is
for us
perfect
to talk about this.
Right.
Yes,
and that's why I'm glad I waited to do this video, or we waited to do this video, because everything just is kind of falling into place. It's like a Rubik's Cube or something, or whatever, or like a checker game. It's interesting to see all this happening. The movie was had two directors, which is nothing new for Marvel, because you know that the Marvel movies, the Avengers, are directed by the Russo brothers. Well, this is directed by Ann Bowden and Ryan Fleck. Unfortunately, I don't know much about those two, but I know that they direct independent movies. Some of those movies are Mississippi Grind, Half Nelson, Sugar, are some of the movies that they have directed together. They work together. I don't know if they're just a team or there's some other relationship between them. Who knows? Who cares? But they're a duo who have worked together on several films, and they decided to direct this one because they've worked with Brie Larson before. So that actually was beneficial towards both her and the directors. Kelly Sue DeConnick is the writer of Captain Marvel. Has been for some time now. I think she came on board in the early part of the millennium or the later part of the 20th century. And she makes a cameo appearance in this film, by the way. If you missed it, she has the red hair. In the scene where Carol Danvers she just got through or fell to earth or something like that. This is, I think, after the blockbuster scene. Yeah. And she's inside the train station, and there's a woman with glasses on with bright red hair. That's Kelly Sue DeConnick, who had been writing Captain Marvel for about 10 years, man. Did an awesome job on this. She's the one who got Captain Marvel from looking like a hooker to looking... Excuse me.
Hey.
No, I'm kidding.
Well, I'll elaborate on that, too. I'm glad you brought that up, too, because this is something I've been wanting to talk about.
Looking like an authentic superhero with clothes on. Because Captain Marvel used to be dressed in, and we'll probably have a picture to show you guys, but Captain Marvel used to be dressed in a sash or something. She had high heel boots on, And,
long black gloves that went, beyond her elbows.
And look, and a thumb look like, or
pretty much.
Or, so that's how she used to be dressed. So Kelly Sue DeConnick brought respect to the character, and she was called Miss Marvel during the time. So Kelly Sue DeConnick, talked to a couple of the guys at Marvel Comics and like, hey, look, let's give this woman a new look and make her look like a superhero, and we're gonna actually, drop the Miss, and call her Captain Marvel, and who she really, the original Marvel was a male, and he was called Captain Marvel. And Marvel died from some type of illness. I think it was cancer or something like that. His powers, something went haywire with his powers. And he developed a form of cancer and died. And she, through the psych magnetron, adopted those powers and became Miss Marvel. But again, Kelly Sue DeConnick changed that to Captain Marvel. So that's just giving you a little comic book history on the character. The character's been around for a long time, and that's why I reiterate that this is not Marvel trying to keep up with DC. They're not trying to do, okay, well, DC has Wonder Woman, so let's do Captain Marvel. It's not like that. And even for DC is not trying to necessarily keep up with Marvel.
I'll disagree with that.
Well, kind of.
I will totally disagree with that.
But I will say, but we know that Wonder Woman's been around for a long time. But go ahead, Mike.
Well, just because we've seen the constant making over of DC within the last 4 to 5 years, and they've had so many problems with the way they're structured. Totally different from Marvel. And they've been trying to play catch up for years now.
No disagreement there. And I think we may have discussed in the last video, and I know I discussed in one of my videos, is that DC for a long time, fans were wondering why the hell they were not doing a Justice League film. When Marvel had first started off with their first MCU film, which was Iron Man. And I remember a lot of the directors and people at Warner Brothers were blaming it on the Harry Potter movies. I'm like, what the hell does Harry Potter have to do? But they were saying they didn't want to spend the money on a Justice League film because the Harry Potter movies were costing too much to make. And I didn't get that. I get that then. I don't get it now. They could have had a jump on Marvel a long time ago, but they didn't take the chance. The people that are working at Warner Brothers, I don't know what they were thinking. And then when they finally got the DCU together, or still trying to piece it together, well, I don't think I need to say any more. It's still a shipwreck. Now, granted, they did do very well with Wonder Woman, and I think they did a pretty good job with Aquaman, but that's 2 films. Marvel's into 22 films now.
Unbelievable.
Next month will be 23, and when Spider-Man Far From Home comes out, that'll be 24 films that they're into. So you wouldn't put 2 films versus 24 films, even if some of the movies you didn't enjoy in the MCU. Right. 24. You gotta respect say 6 movies out of 24. Yeah. Say I didn't like Thor: Dark World. I didn't like Iron Man 2. I didn't like Age of Ultron, which are 3 movies I'm naming that have gotten chief complaints from fans. 3 movies, even 6, into 24 films versus 2. You know what I'm saying? There's no, just do the math. There's no comparison.
Well, Kevin Feige, in our lifetime, we have seen somebody accomplish something in film that we're not going to ever see repeated. Right. Or at least not in our lifetime.
Our lifetimes. No.
I can't think of any company that's ever had a story arc span a decade.
Right.
And so meticulously been able to maintain the enthusiasm and the excitement for it.
I would say Star Wars, but the only thing about with Star Wars is that Star Wars had 3 films, and it started in 77, ended in 83, and then started again in 99.
There was never nobody has a run, right, a consistent run that long.
That's very true.
And they're all in it. Well, for the most part, most of them are interconnected.
Right.
So but this is something that we've never seen before, and we may never see it again.
Right.
And we're not sure if Kevin Feige. There's speculation that he might leave. There is speculation that they really didn't want. Well, now we're going to get off the subject matter. So let's veer back and so I don't get too far off, we want to talk about Captain Marvel.
Right.
So
we'll come back to that in a minute.
Yeah, so I don't get so we don't get veered off too much. Where we want to go with this now? Do you
well,
want
the next thing I want to say, we're going to present some facts as they have occurred over the last week or so surrounding Captain Marvel, and then we'll get into our critique of the film.
Oh, okay.
I also want to mention too that Pinar, if I'm pronouncing her name correctly, Pinar Toprak. She's Turkish American. It's the first female composer for a Marvel film. That's why I knew this had to be Women's History Month, and they're doing everything as it relates to women, the representation of women and females in film and in the MCU. Not very nice looking woman too, by the way. Her first name is spelled Pinar, Pinar. Last name is Toprak, Toprak. But she's a composer. She worked with Hans Zimmerman, I think, for the Justice League soundtrack, which was pretty good, and another film called The Wind Gods. I don't know what that is, but she did an excellent job on this particular score. And I'm not going to say she did a good job for a woman, because there are a lot of great female musicians out here. So that's the composer for the film, and also Captain Marvel grossed $455 million here at home in the States. Nationally, in spite of all the hatred that the film and the opposition the film met, and all the trolls and everything like that, and I'm a person, I believe in opinions. I have my own. We all have opinions. I'm not a professional movie critic, neither is Mike, but we all have opinions, and we know the saying that goes with that. Everyone has, opinions. Blah,
That's
blah,
right.
blah,
All
blah.
I have is my heart and my love for comics.
Right. So, we're not professionals here. We're just average Joes or average, comic book fans. But, to criticize something is one thing. But when you start throwing hatred, is another thing entirely. And that is what I have a problem with. If you don't agree with something, you don't agree with what I say. Hell, I was talking to my baby brother the other day, and I'm saying we don't agree. We agree to disagree with a lot of different things, but I'm saying at the end of the day, as my brother, I still love him. You're gonna disagree in love and respect towards each other. That's where it should end. But when you start throwing hatred out there, and hateful comments, that's a whole other thing entirely. It has nothing to do with comic books. It has nothing to do with being a fan. It has nothing to do with anything except your own evil self. But okay, I'm going too far. Anyway,
getting to
Captain Marvel.
Well, the box office gross
$455 million.
That was, but wait a minute. That was over opening weekend, correct?
Yes.
But that 455 million was not all opening weekend states. They did something. I think Marvel did something for the first time that most companies very rarely do. They released They released Captain Marvel here and in China at the same time.
Oh wow!
So the overall gross for the weekend is China and the United States.
Yes, right. Thank you for correcting me on that.
Here's the other thing. Since it has opened, and I can't confirm this totally, but I have heard that the box office for Captain Marvel has dropped off 72% in China. 72%.
Oh wow.
Could be rumor, but I saw that more than one time on YouTube, in between conversations with different people. So I guess I should do some fact checking. But that's what I've been told, that it's dropped off tremendously.
Well, I checked this morning, and the movies made $18 billion worldwide.
18 billion?
Yeah, worldwide. So as of
you're saying that as a joke.
No, it's not a joke. Officially as of March today.
You said 18 billion. What
18 billion.
What made 18 billion?
Captain Marvel.
You're so funny. You're so funny.
Well, that's what I've seen.
You're so funny.
But now we're going to get into the actual critique of the film itself, as to why it may have dropped off, not just across seas, but even overseas or wherever in the world. What our feelings are about the film and shared feelings that I have heard from other fans that Mike has probably heard from fans as well. So again, we'll start with you, Mike.
Yeah.
Shut my mouth for a minute.
And Jehblue and I have not talked anything about the movie. We wanted to make sure we approach each other as fresh as we're approaching you.
Yes.
All right. I got a laundry list, but I'll try and keep it short. I had more than enough issues with the movie, and one of them being, and I'm probably sounding redundant because I'm finding that I am not alone in how I feel about the character of Carol Danvers as portrayed by Brie Larson. I thought that she might as well have been a cardboard cutout, and the actors acting around her. The problem I had with her is that you have the principal character, and there's no arc to her story. She's the same person from the beginning of the movie to the end of the movie. I saw no growth. She was kind of smart mouth and whatever,
Sarcastic
in the beginning,
yeah.
When she met Fury, all the way up to the end. And the thing is, I never ever, I can't believe, I've never walked out of a movie ever in my life, but I've never sat in a movie like this and looked up at the screen and was wondering, what am I looking at? Because there was just so many things, one thing after the other. I said, okay, I can understand they're retconning a lot of the story. And you talked earlier about how in the comic books, Captain Marvel was a man, died of cancer, passed on, right. The power was passed on to her. And granted, Marvel doesn't have to do everything I want it to do, because I can't expect that, because it's not reality. But I prefer that they've written the story differently and a little closer to the canon of the comic books. I was hoping Jude Law was going to be Captain Marvel. I would have much rather seen. She had no character development to anybody. Here it is. You had Jude Law as what she thought was a mentor, almost like father figure, which he was, but he was playing her.
Right.
I just thought it would have been and then Annette Bening, when we find out that she is,
right.
The two scenes where she shows up, I'm like, are you on drugs? She's doing these crazy things, and I'm thinking to myself, why are you in this movie?
Right.
What you're doing is not relating to her. You're not. I could not understand why she was there.
She was dancing or something, or whatever she was doing. I agree.
So I'm saying to myself, what's the reason for this? If you're going to have her, if you're going to change it around, make her Ms. Marvel, can you spend some time with the two of them?
Right.
And I can jump all over the movie. We can jump further ahead, where she finally comes back into contact with not Monica. What's her name?
Marie Rambeau.
Marie Rambeau.
Maria Rambeau.
There's not even a whole heck of a lot there either. I mean, now, granted, you get Marie Rambeau is telling. Okay.
So, subscribers, if you liked that video, which I hope you did, please hit the like button, hit the subscribe button, and also tap that bell so you can get more notifications of videos like these. And you can also comment below and make comments. I will respond. I do respond. Please subscribe and share this channel with others who have like minds like us, with comic books, movies, music, etc. Okay? That's it. That's all, y'all. Peace, love, and hair grease. Oh, yeah, I changed sweaters, too. Did you notice that? Peace, y'all.